once again, everyone, and thank you for logging in right on time. This is our July 2026 book review, Surrounded by Idiots. It's been fun reviewing books on a monthly basis, and we truly love this community of book readers and book lovers. Before we commence fully, I'd like to just give a brief introduction um, for especially for those who are tuning in for the very first time, just to give an understanding and the background to this book club, because some of us may be wondering, what's this book club all about? Okay, so this book club, it's called Tri-Metropolitan Book Club, but it's an initiative of Trinity House. So a few years ago, Trinity House started, about 16 years ago. It was actually our 16th year anniversary last week. So from inception of the church, we had what we call the Tri-Metropolitan Club. But then it wasn't called Tri-Metropolitan Club. It was meant to be a social club where we hang out on Fridays rather than people going to clubs. You know what I mean? So it was our own kind of club, clean club, no smoking, no drinking, no boyfriends, girlfriends kind of thing. I'm sure you get what I mean. So it was an avenue for us to meet after work, just in a relaxed environment, have fun, nibble, food, drinks, have musicians, I mean, in a clean environment, like I said, just generally hang out, karaoke, games in different parts of Lagos. Most of what we did was actually at 4 Points, by Sheraton at Oniru. It used to be fun by the poolside downstairs. There was even a time we had Ron Kenoli, we had comedians, we even had Funke Akindele once upon a time. We had different saxophonists. It was just a time to just chill, just to relax, rather than going to nightclubs, like a good environment for Christians. Um, but again, COVID happened. But before COVID, we even extended to Polo Club, where we had people from Muson come to play. It was always so relaxing, so refreshing, fun, meeting people, avenue for us to network, So it was a lot of fun. But of course, like we know, COVID happened and we couldn't meet physically. So we thought, okay, this is Tri-Metropolitan Club. We wouldn't just let it go away or die temporarily during COVID period. So what do we do? And of course, we started the book club 5 years ago, and it's been fun. So we started a good book club so that we could meet, virtually, and review books, and just to bring back a reading culture to our society. Some of us have libraries or bookshelves, and the books are there, dusty, nothing is happening. Or we've even forgotten about even acquiring or getting more books and reading. So we thought, okay, let's have these book reviews. First of all, we thought it would be on a quarterly basis, but we said, let's have it as often as possible. Let's make it a monthly book club. And ever since then, it's been fantastic. We've reviewed motivational books, leadership books, lifestyle, various types of books, and it's been really nice. We've had authors review their own books. We've had people review other books like the John Maxwell's of this world, and it's been really, really, really interesting. And so we have a platform of book readers and book lovers, over 300 people on that WhatsApp platform that we've done, I mean, acquired, for lack of a better word to use, over the last 5 years. In fact, this October will be our 5th year anniversary. So we usually have our anniversary celebration. So rather than just the virtual book club, we have the physical events as well once a year. So everybody will come together, so we can even put faces to the names. A lot of people have joined the book clubs, we don't know who they are. So we have, beach, we've done, you know, um, a physical event at the beach before. We've done at the Art Hotel. Last year, we were at Cactus celebrating our 4th year anniversary. I remember the first year anniversary was at Cilantro Restaurant in VI. It was so much fun. Our guest was Professor Wole Soyinka. So you can imagine, it's really, really been an interesting journey. And we've had so many guests from various, works of life, MDs of organizations, different people, nice, conversations. So yeah, so this is where we are. And basically, like I said, it's an initiative of Trinity House. And some of us, we may not know what Trinity House is. Trinity House is actually a church. But this book club is not for Christians only. For Christians, for Muslims, it's for everybody. It's just a book club, although it's an initiative of the church. So, like I said, Trinity House is a church, is a non-denominational worship center. We are located at Zion Center, or at Water Corporation Drive off Legally Ayoride. But usually now, because of the coastal road, we usually take the rain oil down the Abiodun Yesufu, depending on the direction or your location or where you're coming from. So it's not too far from Queen's Park, which is a landmark if we're familiar with Queen's Park Event Center. So it's right, Trinity Avenue, Water Corporation Drive, but you can go through Abiodun Yesufu on Oniru, or depending on, like I said, where you're coming from, where your location is on the coastal route, it's just across the road. So I won't say too much. We will speak further, later during the session, but so that we don't take too much of our time, I thought it was important for us to give this brief introduction so that we're all familiar with why we are here and what the book club is all about. Today, we have a very wonderful guest, and we have two moderators today. Our host, as usual, who is the senior pastor of our church, is Pastor Itua Igodalo. I'm not sure if Pastor Ito is here now. Let me quickly go through. Usually he would do an
Not yet.
introduction. He's not yet here. Okay. So yeah. So Pastor Ito is our senior pastor. Yeah. So today we have two moderators, Taiwo Tunkarimu and we have Abi Dejowo. We have a very fantastic guest today who is going to speak. We're speaking about surrounded by idiots. We've been talking about it. Taiwo has given a lot of, nuggets on the WhatsApp platform, been very interesting. By the way, the platform is really not interactive, but we just decided to bring in some spice this time around, and it was a bit interactive. So please, yeah, we'll tell you more about the book club. We will send some numbers in the chat box as we go along. So if you're new here and you want to be part of the book club, it's a very nice platform. It's not so engaging, it's not stressful. It's just a platform where we disseminate information, letting us know when the next book review would be and all of that. So before I yield the floor to Taiwo Tunkarimo and Abe Dejonwo, who are the moderators for today, I just would like to mention that next month there will be no book review. Usually we have August break. So yeah, so I mean, quite a number of people are usually on summer holiday. So we usually would do on the platform, we'll send all the book reviews that, information on the book reviews that we've done in the past, some of the PowerPoint presentation slides where you can just read while you're on holiday and just generally relax. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those, again, my bad. I didn't introduce myself because I took it for granted that everybody on the platform already know who I am. I'm Dr. Tommy. Yes, I've been the moderator for these sessions in the last 5 years. But effective last month, it's good to have younger blood like Taiwo to moderate. And Taiwo did a fantastic job last month with Abe Dejonwo. Thank you very much, ladies. So yes, like I said, August break, no book review next month, but September will be here. And we'll be giving you information about our 5th year anniversary. And I'm sure that we're all going to be looking forward to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm Dr. Tommy. Everybody calls me Dr. Tommy, but I'm Dr. Tommy Eshola. I'm also a minister in Trinity House. And so it's okay to call me Minister Tommy. Some people will call me Pastor Tommy, but Dr. Tommy is just fine. So thank you very much. And Taiwo, I yield the floor to you. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Tommy, good evening, and good evening to all the Tri-Metropolitan Book Club lovers, as I always greet everyone on the platform. And again, it's a pleasure once again to, be your moderator for today's book review, July book review. And it's been an interesting journey, like Dr. Tommy mentioned, reading the book and getting to understand a lot of things around communication, personalities, and how to, build relationships with people. We're two moderators, so I will ask Sister Abby to do the introduction of our guest who is going to be reviewing the book for us. The book we're reviewing this month is Thomas Erickson, Surrounded by Idiots. This book was written in 2014 and it's a best-selling guide, to understanding human behavior. And this was done through a model called the Dix personality model. For those on the group, we've been looking at, that model, and I won't really say too much again on the book because, of course, we have someone who is just perfect, to help us review the book, and then we can all make our contributions. But before I call on Sister Abby, please, if you can put in the chat box where you're joining from, your name, so we know where everyone is, joining us from. Just put your name and where you're joining us from, and then in the course of the review, you can drop your questions in the chat box. We will answer them when it's time for question and answer, and you also have the opportunity to speak, to ask some questions when it's time. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to Sister Abby so she can do the introduction of our guest for the book review for the month of July. Over to you, sis.
Thank you, Sister Tai, for that introduction, and also Dr. Tomi. Thank you very much for also having me on. And it's a privilege to be able to introduce this guest. And as his name is Mr. Tolu Lade Adedayo. And Adedayo is a seasoned human resource professional with over 20 years of progressive experience across national and multinational organizations, including areas like Access Bank, PLC, British American Tobacco. And currently, he works with Dangote Cement PLC, where he serves as the AGM and Senior Human Resource Business Partner. He holds a first degree in mechanical engineering from Lagos State University. In addition, he has a master's degree in managerial psychology from the University of Ibadan. And he holds a master's of business administration from the University of Lagos, demonstrating a strong commitment to continuous learning and leadership development. Tololade is currently pursuing a doctorate degree in leadership and development studies. Tololade is an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and a member of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, reflecting his dedication to professional excellence and ethical standards. Over the course of his career, he has developed a strong reputation for delivering strategic HR solutions that drive organization effectiveness and business performance. His core areas of expertise include HR consulting, talent acquisition, and retention, learning, development, compensation, and benefits, performance management, outsourcing, and change management. He is particularly known for aligning human capital strategies and business objectives in complex and dynamic environments. Beyond his professional career, Tolulade is a devoted Christian with a gift for the music ministry. He's an ordained deacon in the Church of Christ. He's passionate about leadership service and using his influence to inspire both organization transformation and personal growth. Tolulade combines spiritual and analytical depth with strong interpersonal skills. I position him as a trusted advisor to business leadership and is a catalyst to sustainable organization success. He's blessed with 3 lovely daughters. I'll just and Tolulade is also been a friend and has been a support in my business in UK, where he has been able to supply us with staff who have been, been a great asset to the company. So we just introduced Tolu Adidayo. Thank you very much.
All right, let's give a virtual applause to welcome our guest, Tolu Adidayo. Welcome, Tolu. Over to you now.
All right, thank you very much. A big appreciation to the leadership for this opportunity. I do not take it for granted. Thanks to Pastor Igodalo. Coincidentally, I think I may be related to Pastor Igodalo because, his mom is a Yoruba, and she's from the town that I also hail from Okegbo in Ondo State. That's where his mom is from. So we share that background, but he's primarily from Edo State, but his mom is from Ondo State. So we share that background together. And thanks also to Dr. Tomi for this opportunity, and to the moderators, Tai and Abby. Thank you very much. I'm part of the group, and I see that you've actually done all the work, sharing the great insights, chapter by chapter. So we're going to make this, participatory, really. Basically, we're just going to share knowledge together, and as much as we can learn from the book. I see the book as a wonderful book, that has great benefits, for everybody that relates with people. As far as you talk to people, you work with people. I mean, this book it's a must read, for everybody. So, as an introduction, Thomas Erickson, Surrounded by Idiots, of course, is not really a book about idiots. The title is quite fascinating, and I think it's a strategy, in a way to actually make people want to, see and look at the content. So it's not a book about idiots, actually. It's a book about human differences. So that's what it's all about. And the provocative title is simply a vehicle for delivering a profound leadership lesson. So that's what the book is all about. Most interpersonal conflicts occurs because people assume everybody should think, communicate, prioritize, and behave the way they do. Okay. Of course, we see conflicts, in the home. We see conflicts in the workplace. We see conflicts in the church and all that. And, one of the major reasons why we have conflicts is because, we are different. And because, I want everybody to think and behave the way I do. And as soon as I see that difference and all that, I tend to want to say that this guy, is an idiot, is stupid, and all the rest. So, so the book is trying to tell us that most conflicts occurs because people assume everyone should think, communicate, prioritize, and behave the way that they do. All through the book, the author employs the DISC behavioral framework to explain four dominant behavioral styles. For those who are not very familiar with this is DISC, and it's a behavioral framework, that explains human behavior. The D in the DISC means dominance. So it's saying that, their personality, a personality type, that people have that is domineering. So some people have a domineering personality style. That's the D, and he called the D personality type. He gave it the red color. Okay, and the high is influence. Some people belong to that personality type that's that's they tend to influence other people easily. So he gave that the yellow color. And for the S in the disc, it's the steadiness personality group. And he called that the green color. Then for the C, that is the compliance and conscientiousness, personality type. Basically they comply, to rules. They analyze, and they are more what we call people that are very data driven, and those people he called the blue. He gave them the blue color. So this is what Erskine tried to do in the book to explain the different behavioral styles and patterns that we have. So while the model simplifies human complexity, it remains one of the most practical communication frameworks available for leaders, managers, pastors, teachers, and professionals. Everybody, aligns and falls into these personality types. So let's look at chapter 1. So the book says that communication happens on the listener's terms. So what's the core insight in chapter 1? The greatest communication mistake is believing that communication is what you said. Okay, communication is actually what the other person understood. Okay, so what he's trying to say is that most of the time we believe that when we communicate to people, when we give a message, to people or to someone and all that, the person must understand it the way we understand. And so he's saying that no, that is not the case, because the person might not understand it the way you intend, or you have conceptualized it, or you have communicated it. Okay, let's look at a workplace application, for example. So a manager can say that, okay, I need this report as soon as possible. Okay, I need this report as soon as possible. And, the interpretation by your team might be totally different based on their personality type. Okay, so different people will hear different things. The message is, I need a report as soon as possible. It will be interesting to know that a person with red personality, according to Erikson, would interpret that message to be, yeah, do it now. It has to be done now. Okay, so a red personality type will interpret that it has to be done now. That is the interpretation he got from that. I need the report as soon as possible. Now, a yellow, what he hears is, it is important, but it's flexible. Okay, the same message, a yellow will interpret that, okay, yeah, this is important, but it's still flexible. Now, as soon as possible to him is okay, it's flexible, it can be done at any time and all that. While the red is saying that it must be done now. For a green is saying, what he's hearing is that don't disappoint the boss. Don't disappoint the boss. That is what he hears. Okay, the boss has sent a message. He must not be disappointed. Don't disappoint the boss. That's what the green personality person is hearing. Then the blue, what's he hearing? He's hearing that, okay, what's the exact deadline? That's what he hears. In his mind, he said, okay, yeah, this report, I need this report as soon as possible. But in his ears, what is there is that, okay, what is the exact deadline for this? Okay, so you can see the different interpretation that these different personality types I've given to that message. So that first chapter is actually saying that communication happens on the listener's terms. It is the understanding, okay, of your audience, that determines if you have communicated or not. So we must not, make that mistake that, okay, when we communicate and gives a message, I mean, it is the exact thing that you said that, the people will hear. So basically, that is what chapter 1 is saying. And so, I mean, I was just looking at, how do we apply that in life? So in marriage, in parenting, friendships, many conflicts occur because intentions and interpretations differ. Okay, so if you look at marriage, for example, communication is one of the major source of conflicts, in marriage because, the husband is saying something and the wife is interpreting it in a different way. The wife is saying something, the husband is interpreting it differently because they are of different personality types. They are totally different. And also in the homes, also, the parents say something, the children interpret it in a different way. And of course, I mean, in homes where we have more than one child or more people in the house, and that you see that everybody interprets messages in different ways, and they do different things. And also in friendships, also, so conflicts occur because intentions and interpretations differ when it comes to communication. So, of course, I'll just run through them. We can also, contribute as I go on. So let's look at chapter 2. Okay, so chapter 2 is saying that why are we the way we are? So, the insight in chapter 2 is that behavior results, from a combination of different factors. So the way we behave, is as a result of different factors. Okay, and one of them is what we are treating today, the personality. And more than the personality, we also look at the environment. Okay, so we see that environment also shapes, our behavior. Of course, apart from the environment, we have our experiences. Okay, so I mean, you have grown over the years and all that. You have experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly and all that. So it also shapes our experiences. I mean, I see somebody, who has had bad experience with, lending money to people, and somebody will now come, okay, please come and borrow me 50,000. I say, sorry, I don't have. He has the money, but because he has had bad experiences before, so that has begun to shape, his behavior. Then our value systems too also, contribute to how we behave, and of course the surrounding influences around us also contribute to how we behave. So Erikson reminds us that behavior is observable, but motivations behind our behavior are actually hidden. Okay, so we see our behaviors and all that, but the reason behind those behaviors, which are the motivations, are quite hidden. Are quite hidden. So looking at practical lessons, judges, judge behavior carefully. So you may see what people do without knowing why they do it. So many a times, you wonder why people are behaving in a certain way and all that. Okay, so behind the behavior are motivations, the reasons for those behaviors, which are actually hidden and all that. So that's chapter 2. Let's quickly go to chapter 3. So in chapter 3, Erikson is now introducing the system that he wants us to understand, in that book. This chapter introduces the 4 colors. Okay, as we said earlier, the 4 colors are the red, the yellow, the green, and the blue. And it aligns, with the DISC personality framework. So the major takeaway is that most people are not pure red, yellow, green, or blue. We have combinations of colors. Okay, and what is said from statistics is that 80% of people actually have, two colors, combination of two colors, and I think it said 5% have only, one color, and we have the 15% having like three colors. He actually said that we don't have, nobody has the whole of the colors. Okay, so looking at the disc, so for the red, those who are, dominant based, who have dominant personality type, the red, those who have the high, the influence, the yellow, as the steadiness, the greens, and the compliance, the analytical people, the blue. So it's saying that we have more people who combines, two colors. So we can have a red and a blue. We can have, a green and a red, and all the rest. So here we have introduction to those colors, and all that. So one of the key lessons here is that we must never try to put people in boxes. Okay, so don't label somebody that, okay, this is a red, don't say this is a blue and all that. So don't let us put people in boxes. Then the idea is just to use the colors as guide, not to label people. Okay, so just to understand, their character traits and their behavioral traits and all that. Okay, so quickly, let's go to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is that now actually introducing the red. Okay, the red behavior. So based on the DISC framework, the red behavior, the major characteristic of the red behavior is, as driver. Okay, so these are guys, people who have, this ability to drive things. Okay, so their behavior comes with speed, it comes with action, it comes with results, it comes with confidence, it comes with courage. Okay, so when you see someone, okay, who wants to do things, okay, I need it now, okay, without, wasting time, who are highly result oriented, who are very confident and know that these are the reds. Okay, and so the idea is actually to understand, okay, what character traits they have. Okay, so they tend to, drive things. When you have a red in the team, you are guaranteed that, okay, this person will bring results. Okay, it's going to, drive other people to achieve the results, and it's not going to drive, and it's going to do it within the time frame. In fact, it would do it earlier, than the time, and they also come with, confidence and courage. Okay, I mean, there are so many examples, that we can see, when we talk about the red personality. So let's just quickly go to the to chapter 5. So chapter 5 is talking about the yellow personality. Now the yellow is the influencer. So remember that the red is the driver. Okay, is the driver. Okay, the based on the DISC framework, they dominate. Okay, they tend to dominate. Talking about the red, so they drive things. They drive results with confidence and on time. So chapter 5 talks about the yellow behavior. So the yellow behavior, this is the influencer. The key behavior trait there is that they influence things and all that. And what do they bring? They bring inspiration. A yellow person brings inspiration, it brings optimism, it brings creativity, it brings energy to the team, it brings relationship. So, I mean, what you can think of, okay, maybe, I mean, just to go back to red, uh, a key role, that you can think of when look at the red behavior. I mean, you talk about the CEOs, you talk about the entrepreneurs. Okay, so those are people with the red, personality traits. Then when you talk about the yellow, you are talking about, the salespeople, the marketers, you're talking about maybe, an evangelist and all that. Okay. So they bring inspiration, they bring optimism, they bring creativity to the team, they bring energy, they bring relationships. Okay. So for example, a new initiative is being launched, the yellow employee becomes the champion. So these are people that brings ideas. I mean, they generate ideas, easily, and they just bring people on board, to just drive that idea. So a new initiative is being launched. The yellow employee becomes the champion. He talks about it. He promotes it. He excites people about it. Okay. The danger. Okay, I think we need to be talking about some of their weaknesses and the dangers for some of these traits. The danger for the yellow is that at times, although he brings the ideas, he energizes people and all that, he may likely miss the deadline. Okay, he may likely miss the deadline. He ignores details. He can overcommit. He can overcommit. These are people that you can say that they have the mouth, but they don't have the details. Okay, then at times they under execute. They under execute. So one of the lessons that we can learn, we can take from a yellow person is that, at times enthusiasm is not execution. So somebody can be excited about something, but in terms of execution, he might not have it. All right. So in chapter 6, it talks about the green behavior. So the green personality is the supporter. Okay, he supports anything that has to be done. So what does it bring? The green brings to the table. They bring stability. It brings loyalty. It brings team spirit. It brings patience, then dependability, and many more. So when you look at an example in the workplace, for example, when office politics becomes toxic, brains become the glue holding the team together. I mean, so it's a green that you see that, when there's conflict in the office, it
Hmm?
tries to, come in and
How
just,
many? I didn't use that for. I only used two. You can open anyone.
okay. So the green personality comes in and want to make sure that conflict does not escalate. He's always ensuring that there's peace. There's stability. In the team and all that. Okay. So one of the their weakness or danger for the green is that they avoid conflict, they resist change, and of course they also delay decision. They have found one thing when it comes to decision making and all the rest. So a takeaway there is that peacekeeping is good, but avoiding necessary conversations is not. So at times you need to have, I mean, you need to have some very very important conversation, but a green will always avoid those conversations just to ensure that there is peace and all the rest. So the last but not the least, in chapter 7, we talked about the blue. So the blue is, like we said, aligning with the DISC framework. I mean, compliance. Okay, they want to ensure that whatever it is done, is quality checked. Okay, so the blue is like an analyst. Okay, and what does the blue bring? It brings precision, quality, logic, planning, to the team, risk management, to the team. So before any major project is done, in the team, or before you put anything on the table, the green, I mean the blue, sorry, the blue asks that, okay, have we done, have we complied, with all the regulations? Have we assessed the risk? Has everything been done? Have you checked well and all that? So that is what the blue brings to the table. So one of the danger or the weakness of the blue is, of course, they can analyze forever. They can begin to check and check and check, and wasting a lot of time. They delay action. They overcomplicate, simple issues like that. Okay, and of course, they say that perfection often delays progress. So the blue is the perfectionist. He wants to make sure that, okay, we have mitigated all the risk. Okay, I mean, we won't have challenges with, when this project starts and all that. Okay, so in chapter 8, nobody is perfect, really. Erickson tries to tell us that, neither of all those colors or those personality types is perfect as one. Okay, and it's one of the greatest, strongest chapters in that book. It says that, each of them have their strengths and they have, their weaknesses. Every strength has a shadow side, which is the weakness side. So, for example, on a red, you want to have a red in your team, that can drive, that can bring results and all that. You want, I mean, this guy can control people. Okay, this guy can keep the direction and all that. But if you're not careful, okay, I mean, his attitude and his personality can actually lead to arrogance. And I mean, he just keep people away and all that. So this is something that we need to check, as individuals also. I mean, we might be the right person and all that, but we also have to check that, okay, at what point are we becoming arrogant and all the rest, okay? Optimism, for example, can, the weakness is carelessness, talking about the yellow, okay? Patience for the green is passivity. Then when we talk about the blue, who is someone who is accuracy, driven, perfectionism, okay, might be his Waterloo and all that. So somebody that wants to just make sure that everything is perfect without, going ahead. So one of the lessons in that chapter 8, is that high performers often fail not because of weaknesses, but because of overused strength. Okay, so we can actually overuse our strengths and, just overdo things. If we want to use our language here, overdo things. So we have to be careful not to, overdo and overstretch our strength. So we have to have a limit. So that's what Erickson is trying to tell us in chapter 8, that nobody is perfect. Okay. And let's go to chapter 9. So, learning new things. So, the core inside there is understanding people is a skill. People understanding is a skill. So, we need to understand people in a way that we can, avoid conflicts and we can, achieve results, work well with people and achieve results. Skills improve practice. So, observe people this week. Okay, how do they make decisions? So this is I'm trying to challenge to us that from now let's begin to observe people and see, okay, what is their dominant behavior? Okay, what is their dominant behavior? Are they red? Are they blue? Are they yellow or green? And do they have a combination of some of these personality types? So in the observation, you want to see how do they make decisions, how do they respond to pressure, how do they communicate. Then with that, you start identifying patterns quickly. Okay, so let's quickly go to chapter 10. So chapter 10 talks about body language. So it's trying to say that so through body languages, you can also identify people and the personality that they have or that is dominant in them. For example, the Reds, they will have very strong eye contact. They will keep strong eye contact with you when they talk to you. Maybe when they shake you, also they shake you firmly, and you see their posture. It is dominating. They stand like a wood and all that. So those are the Reds. So you can actually identify some of these characteristics when you see some of these body languages and all that. It can also tell you what kind of personality that people have. For yellows, for example, they are expressive. Okay, they're expressive. Yellows. When you see somebody that you don't even know him from Adam, but it's that is hugging you, your first meeting and all that. That's it, because they are relationship based. Okay, yellows are relationship based. For greens, greens have these calm movements. They don't like making trouble. They don't like conflict at all. In fact, anywhere they see conflict, you just see their back. They just leave. They have friendly expressions. Okay, so these are the body languages that you notice in this personality. For the blues, because these blues are people, I mean, a common occupation that 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 you see the blues, maybe the accountants, uh, the auditors, and some of these occupations that require some serious analysis. I mean, they're always analyzing data, they're always checking, trying to find out, okay, what are the risks, and inherent in some of the activities or projects that they undertake. So blues have reserved behavior, they have controlled expressions and all the rest. Okay, so that's chapter 10. So when we go to chapter 11, so it was trying to just give us how you can actually see these personalities practically. So he gave us a narration, a story about the communist party that they had. So the chapter shows us how personality types interact, socially and all that. And it's interesting to know that these personalities can change. You can see a red person in a party, after this person has taken a lot of drinks, especially alcohol and all that, it can actually change, people's behavior, and all that. So that's what he was trying to explain there. That, I mean, he was surprised to see, somebody who is a red now behaving like a yellow and all that under the influence of, alcohol and all that. So different personalities experience the same events, differently, and they express themselves in different ways. So this is exactly what happens in our meetings, in our churches, in our families, in our schools, in executive teams. You can see how these personalities interrelate, with each other, to see the dynamics. So understanding personality actually prevents, unnecessary conflicts. It prevents unnecessary judgments. So chapter 12, I consider chapter 12 as the most, important chapter in this book, because it's now talking about how can you adapt, to these different personality types and all that. And, it's very key because, I mean, if I look at my career journey and all that, and some places I've worked, you never know, because if you don't understand people, and maybe you have not studied emotional intelligence, you're not aware of emotions, and you're not aware of other people's emotions. I mean, you tend to, get on the way of people, and, conflicts occur. I remember cases where, I mean, I was a loggerhead with my CEO and all that, because he has a different personality type, and I didn't know how to manage his personality. Okay, so chapter 12 gives us how we can adapt to these different personalities and all that. So let's look at red, for example. How do you adapt to a red? Okay, so red, they're fast, they take decisions fast and all that. So if you have a boss, or you have a wife, that is a red, or you have friends that is a red, or you are dealing with people in church that is a red, so in your communication, you have to be very brief. They love brevity, they love clarity, they want results, they want action. you know they want you to be confident. Okay, so if you want to deal with them, you have to deal with them according to what their personality is. So for example, before discussing the issue, I mean, okay, this is an example. Now you want to just you are having a conversation, um, with a red, for example, and you are telling the red that okay, maybe it's your boss or it's somebody that is senior, to you, and he asks you to provide a certain report, and you're now telling him that before you want to discuss the issue, you need to provide some background or something. You have to go on. He wants the result now. He wants you to tell him, what is happening right now, and they don't waste time. Okay, so that is a red for you. Then let's look at the yellow. How do you adapt to yellow? What yellow needs? Okay, so a yellow needs energy. They need positivity. They need interaction. They need recognition. So they are not given to long details. They're not given to long reports. They are highly people oriented. Okay, so some of anything that is going to be detailed, puts them off. There are people that wants to just, they want to just sell things and make sure you buy in immediately and all the
Mm.
rest. Okay, so if you are giving them a report to review, before they do anything, they are just not that kind of people. So that is what that chapter is trying to tell us, just to adapt, to this personality types. Okay, so green, for example, what they want is security. A green. So, for example, a green in a workplace, wants a job that is secure, that will give him security, that he can a job that can be for a long time. Okay, he wants stability. He wants patience. He wants assurance. That's a green for you. And for a blue, how can you adapt to a blue? Blue needs, they need data. They need logic. They need evidence. They need accuracy. Okay, so if you are dealing with them, this is how you have to deal with them. You have to give them, what they want and all the rest. Okay, so let's look at how we can apply these to in our day to day. So let's look at application to modern leadership. The stronger leaders are not necessarily the smartest, the most experienced, the most charismatic. The stronger leaders are often the most adaptable. Okay, so how do we adapt some of these things to our daily life? Okay, so like I said, stronger leaders are not the smartest. Okay, they are not the most experienced. They are not the most charismatic. The strong leaders are often the most adaptable. So they can adapt, to different, personalities to get results. So the way a CEO, will speak to an engineer will be different to the way he speaks to a sales team, to different to the way he speaks to an investor, and to be different to the way he speaks to, the government. A pastor, for example, the way he speaks to an elder is different, to the way he speaks to the youth, the way he speaks to new converts, and all the rest. So let me just
If I want to check.
so let's just let me try to wrap up now. Go to my final notes. Okay, so that we can also contribute and maybe also ask questions. So in the chapter 12, chapter 12 answers the leadership question as saying, now that I understand people, how should I interact with them? So the answer is adaptation. So when you understand people, when you understand their personality, the next thing is adapting, to their style, so that you can, you can have better relationship. They can also get results. The idea is not changing who you are, but changing how you communicate to them, how you relate to them. So, like I said, you have a red boss. What do you do? How do you adapt? You get to the point quickly. Okay, you bring solutions. For a yellow, if you have a yellow boss or you have a yellow colleague, what do? You have to be enthusiastic. You discuss possibilities. For a green, all you need to do to adapt is to build results. I mean, to build trust. You avoid the surprises. For a blue, your adaptation skill is to come with facts. You prepare thoroughly and come with facts. High performing teams usually contain all four styles. I mean, this is very, very profound. You know, if you want to have a high performing team, or you want to have, a solid team or a solid group of people, that group must contain all the four personality styles. Very, very important. Because, what will the red do in the team? The red will drive action, it will drive results. The yellow will drive engagement. The green would build culture. The blue will ensure quality. Okay, so the best leaders are just the communication style depending on whom they are speaking to. So let's look at how do we, handle conflicts, maybe at home or in our workplace. Many workplace conflicts are not personality clashes; they are communication mismatches. For example, a red person would think that green is indecisive. Okay, so these are how conflicts occur. And of course, before you know it, he's calling him an idiot or he's stupid. The red will think that green is indecisive, green thinks that red is too aggressive, yellow thinks that blue is negative, and blue thinks yellow is careless. But neither side is actually wrong. Okay? Neither side is wrong. So let's look at some applications in our homes. So in marriage, for example, stop trying to change your spouse. So somebody will say that, okay, my spouse is different from myself, but we are trying to change her, we are trying to change him. No, you can't. You can't change anybody. All you need is to learn how that person process information, learn what is the personality type of this person, and adapt, your communication, adapt, your relationship with that. In parenting, different children require different approaches. You agree with me that, even the children have different personality types. So we need to understand, what personality type, is our children. One child may want freedom, another wants structure. Okay, so these are things that we need to understand so that we can learn, from the book. So this chapter 12, contains single most important lesson in the entire book. The most effective people are not those who understand themselves best; they are those who understand others well enough to adapt appropriately, to their personality types. The principle applies equally to everybody from the pastor to the CEO and all, everyone. In closing, let me just bring my thoughts to closing, just to talk generally about the book and summarize the remaining chapters from my notes. Um, okay, so we've talked about adaptation, we've talked about marriage. Okay, so um, the greatest contribution of this book is not the color model. Okay, its greatest contribution is changing the question from why are these people so difficult? Why are people so difficult to what is driving their behavior? So that shift moves us from frustration to understanding, from judgment to empathy, from reaction to to leadership. So I would say that this book is one of the most practical books on communication and human behavior ever written for leaders. While this framework simplifies human complexity, its application can dramatically improve leadership effectiveness, workplace relationships, team performance, ministry impact, and personal interaction. So this is a must read for every one of us. Is a must read for every one of us. So I want to stop here and let's listen to or hear feedback in terms of contribution or questions. Thank you. Taiwo, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tolu Adedayo. I mean, you did a fantastic job bringing various perspectives to the book. And really, I also was taking notes, of the things that you have said. I can see the virtual applause flying everywhere. But I mean, before we go to question and answer or your contributions, I would like that everyone should drop in the chat box what color they think they are, what color personality they think that they are. And while we do that, if you'd like to ask a question, please signify by a raise of your hand and then we will call you. Or if you don't want to speak, you can just type your questions in the chat box. So I'd like to see what personality color that you have identified with. Oh, somebody said maybe I'm a green. Remember, the author also said that you necessarily don't have to be. I mean, you said 90 or 80 something percent, the statistics that you mentioned are a mix of more than one color. Only a few people are just one color. So definitely, I see definitely not a red. Okay. I'm seeing different responses. I have a mix of three colors. Great. I think I'm a red and yellow. Somewhat. Somebody said I'm yellow. Interesting. I mean, it's good to know that we are beginning to identify, our color personality based on the Dix model. So if you have any questions, please you can keep dropping the colors. It's interesting to know. At least we're happy that some of us are beginning to identify with the color that we are. Okay, mix of other three, definitely not red. Okay, I see. Good to know. I mean, our speaker has already said it that there's a possibility that people have more than one or two color personality, which is very okay. Um, I've not seen any questions in the chat box, but I would like to ask Sister Abby to take the lead with some questions that we have also prepared from, reading the book. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tolu. That was very interesting. And I've had questions from different people because of the name of the book, Surrounded by Idiots. So, I had comments like, surrounded by idiots. So what is it? Why are you surrounding yourself by idiots? But obviously, by reading the book, you get to know that it's not exactly as it says. It's just about understanding people's personality and how you adapt. Okay, so I'll just check if anybody has a question before I go ahead. Okay. Please do ask questions because this can relate to in marriage, in ministry, organizations, or even political. My my question. Oh, somebody has risen. Yes, thank you. Oh, Pastor Funke, she was actually the one that chose this book. All right, Pastor Funke. Yes, and we got. Oh, good. I'll wait until the audience. So Pastor Funke will unmute you. Just trying to unmute you. Okay. Oh, you're on mute, Pastor Funke. Go ahead.
Okay. Good
Thank
evening,
you.
everyone. Very interesting book. I don't even know why I chose it because of, the idiot part of it. But I recall being brought up by a professor, and usually he was quite very impatient with people, and he will say, I'm surrounded by not even idiots, blockheads and all that. And I did see that part in the book, but following up, mutating all these years, I see that it's karma. He has come to a place of understanding, and I think now he knows that there's a role reversal of some sort. He's not the blockhead, but he's learned to, be patient, to be more elastic with people, like I read there. Something that touched me because I saw that this guy that wrote this book is well rounded, and he said even Jesus, he tried to place Jesus in a group of being agreeing. And I'm going to ask Tolu, if you agree with that part of Jesus, because I see a lot more, in Jesus. Jesus, yes, can wait and see, but you see a very aggressive leader that covered the whole earth before, he was 40. So, how do you place, like you said, there are hues, of colors, you can't be totally red, totally green, so, how do we marry those colors into our Lord Jesus or into any personality? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. So, although the writer actually said that, human beings have maximum of three, that he has not seen, the four colors, inherent in people. But I'll say that if you look at Jesus, I think that he exemplifies all the colors, all the personality trait, because although he's human, but he's a God, he's all in all. So, for example, we can see where Jesus exemplified, that red color where he was very blunt, was very direct. When he chased people out of, those guys selling things in the synagogue, he chased them out. He wasn't pleading, he wasn't playing with them. He chased them out. Then of course, where he was loving, he was gathering crowd and all that. He displayed that yellow, where he actually showed a lot of influence. We see that a lot of people followed him. Anywhere he showed up, crowd, follows him and all that. And that is, the power of a yellow. He mobilizes the crowd. Give him an assignment. Just give an assignment to go and sell something. You have people to buy and all that. So Jesus exemplified that also. Then, for the green, Jesus exemplified the green. He offered stability to people. For example, when he met Peter, where he was fishing and he didn't catch any fish, throughout the night and all that. That's an example of, security, because he was already disgruntled, he was perplexed and all that. But he said, okay, throw your nets. And he obeyed, and the guy caught, thousands of fishes. He had to call, his other partners to come and join him. So that shows, security. It shows, stability in a way. Then, blue. Jesus he has depth. Okay, Jesus has depth. Okay, many of the times when the Pharisees, wanted to just hook him up, with something, he will come up with, very, very deep, understanding. Look at the case where, they wanted to stone, that woman, who committed adultery and all that. And Jesus just, he just thought for a while, and he said, okay, if you have not done, if you have not seen before, be the first. That is deep analysis. And people that wanted to stone and kill somebody, one by one, they dropped their stones and they walked away. I think Jesus actually exemplified, these character traits. really. So the fact is that we don't have all as human beings, but we must tend to, adapt to all. So that's the message of this book. If you're going to communicate effectively, if you're going to have better relationships and all that, because as a communicator, you are just a fraction of your audience. You're a fraction of the people you are dealing with every day. And so you must have the ability. But it's not actually easy because because if you look at the content of this book that we are reviewing and all that, I mean, that guy wrote a lot and it was given, examples. It was given practical case studies and all that just to drive home his point that it's actually not easy because you need to learn the skills of adaptation or adaptability to be able to, have zero conflict. And I'm not sure if you have anybody that will have zero conflict and all that. I mean, the skill there is for you to be able to manage conflicts. Because if, for example, let's look at, I wish I can just project a slide of how, so by your right, we have the red starts, then you have the yellow, then you have, it's a quadrant thing. You have the red, the yellow, the green, and the blue. So you can see that the blue and the red, these guys are task oriented, okay, while the yellow and the green, they are people oriented. So imagine if a task oriented person, so let's say a red and a green should come and work together. It's going to, that's a conflict, they're actually generating conflict, but the ability for both of them to adapt, a green to want to be like red, to give red what he wants, and the red to give green what he wants. That is what we are talking about here. So it takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of learning and unlearning, reskilling, to be able to get to this level. I hope that answers your question.
Sure
Yes, thank
does.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I see that this Mr. Ken as well is has raised his hand for a question. Let's unmute you and then you can speak. You're
Yeah,
unmuted.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you
All
very
right.
much. I thank you very much, Brother Tolu, for that very exhaustive
Thank you, sir.
review. God bless you richly. Yeah, actually, chapter 12. I'm very much interested by chapter 12. That you explain so eloquently. Um, challenging in the sense that talking about adaptation, adapting to people, in such a way that you don't pretend to be, someone else, So it is choosing the best way, from what I can deduce from the inference I can draw from what you shared with us. I think it is choosing the best way to communicate, so that the other person can truly understand, properly. I think a good example from the Bible is, we find in First Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22, where Paul, talking there said, Paul becoming all things to all people, to win, to save, to get some of them saved. I'm actually interested in evangelism, for example, and then you get to meet people with different, personalities. The red, for example, they respond to purpose and challenge. The yellow, they connect true stories and relationships, and then the green, they value compassion and belonging, having that sense of belonging. And blues, they appreciate, thoughtful answers to their questions. So this book has actually opened my eyes, and then it has really helped me, so I now understand that I have to present the gospel, when, witnessing for Christ in ways that connect with the individual, the person that I am talking with. So I have therefore made up my mind that as a minister, as an evangelist, I have to vary my sermons and, teaching methods, so I can connect with all these four personality styles. I know some people need, they need inspiration, others need practical applications, while others, require careful biblical explanation. So I'm very, very grateful for, the opportunity to listen to you and then also gain this insight. So it will, I am truly, truly, truly very happy because this will really help me, in my evangelism work and then see how I can truly, you know, uh, reach out to people and then get them into the kingdom of God. So God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Really,
sir.
I'm
Thank
really,
you.
I'm really very, very pleased. Yes. And then if you can quickly, address this. How can parents, how can parents use these principles, to raise children more effectively? Taking
Mm.
into cognizance, our present, what we are faced with as parents in the, in this season. God bless you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for that comment. Like I said earlier, if you go to that, I don't know the page yet because I'm reading the e-copy. In that chapter 12, he actually says, the author says that it's important that we are aware that adaptation demands effort and takes a lot of energy. It's not an easy job, actually, because you need to learn how to adapt it. You need to of course, understand, who the traits or personality type that you're also adapting to. So that will help us in that aspect, to actually, put in the effort and the energy, to adapt. Okay, so for the parents and all that, I mean, it's still the same principle because our children are human beings, I mean, these are future leaders, and if you're able to really understand, their personality at an early stage, okay, it will really help us. I mean, let me just give you an example which keeps coming to my head. I mean, look at Fela, for example. Fela was asked to go and study, I think it was medicine, but he came back becoming a musician and all that. So that shows that, during upbringing and all that, the parents didn't actually understand, and they were just forcing him to do things that, you know not aligning with his personality and all that. So, and many parents are still making that mistake now. You're trying to, impose, or you don't even understand them, and that's the reason, because you don't understand their personality type or their behavioral pattern and all that. You are trying to impose something on them, but if you're able to understand them at an early stage, you can guide them towards, the right profession or career in life. So, if, for example, you have a kid who is a red, so I mean, you will know that, okay, this is a guy that, that wants to be maybe an entrepreneur, that should be trained towards, becoming somebody, on his own. He might not want to work for somebody in the future and all that. So you begin to help him acquire skills, that will make him, to be independent and all that. You have somebody who is a yellow, for example, who loves to just be in the midst of people, inspire people and all that. That should give you an inclination towards, what this guy can actually be in the future, and, tailor him to that respect. So I think we can actually do well, to study further, these traits, and see how we can identify, where our children belongs, and guide them, appropriately. Thank you. Time over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that beautiful explanation, and I like the dimension that Mr. Ken has brought in terms of the ministry. I see that Mr. Tommy's answer raised. Okay, I'll let you take your question. I'll check in the chat box if we have any other questions. Over to you,
Okay.
Mr. Tommy.
Okay, mine is not a question. I just want to add a thing or two to the discussions that we are having. Because after spending a few weeks with this book, I've learned that many conflicts really do come from differences in personalities, personality clash, as they call it, and communication styles, and sometimes character traits. I've read a lot about character traits or psychology in the workplace, like I said in the group, the book I wrote about 3 years ago. So I've learned a lot about tips, how people behave. So we should genuinely make an effort to adapt. We've been talking about adaptation, in any way we can. Of course, we find ourselves in a combination of these colors. So Taiwo had said, okay, what colors do we think we fall in? I also posted on the platform to say that I think I see myself in red and blue. Maybe a bit of yellow or green, but more predominantly red and green. So I see some say, oh, I'm not red. I'm definitely not red. I see it in the chat room. But nobody is saying I'm definitely not green. I'm definitely not yellow. So it makes me feel I may be wrong to say maybe they think red is a bad thing. No, I'm sure that's not what you think. But red has strengths like being decisive, like you've said, result oriented, confident, direct, initiative, making tough decisions, decisions, and thriving under pressure. Again, I'm not defending why I'm red or blue. I'm not talking about red and blue. I'm just talking generally. But because red is, So many successful CEOs and entrepreneurs, military leaders and executives. So like I said, I took my time studying this. They have strong red traits because they get things done. The downside is that if these traits are not balanced with empathy, and self-awareness, because number one thing about whichever color we find ourselves or whatever we think, I don't want to even be boxed in those four colors, but let's go ahead with what Thomas Erickson has said. We should also be self-aware because people may perceive maybe the red as intimidating. But again, from what I've read, there is a red and unhealthy is assertive. An unhealthy red is aggressive. So we've talked about the pros. I'm talking about the cons now. So some reds are just aggressive by nature and they don't even get anything done. But some reds are assertive. It doesn't mean they're aggressive. Those are two different things. So we've talked about adaptation and we keep talking about adaptation. Adaptation is not a one-way street. So for example, a yellow must adapt to a blue or a red and vice versa. However, I also want to say that after all the adaptation, the patience, the understanding, and the emotional intelligence that we feel we may have, some people are just outright difficult. That's the truth of the matter. We cannot shy away from saying the truth. The book has helped me realize that not every challenge is a personality issue. Sometimes people seem not to just simply choose not to listen, not to improve themselves, and not to consider others. So we should always be considerate of others, irrespective of the color. We're human beings. We shouldn't use the color profiles to excuse poor behavior. Or a lack of accountability. I mentioned accountability on the platform as well. So I stand by this, like what I said, that we can not continue to excuse bad behavior. It's the truth and say we must bear with everyone because we are children of God. Sometimes we put Christianity into the matter because even those children of God that are badly behaved, really, they should also try and behave cautiously and consciously because we are not talking about underage people here. Because I feel that to an extent, people know what they're doing. Maybe sometimes they maybe the HD people or some other this not personality traits now. So even the Bible says that should we continue in sin so that grace may abound. You cannot be behaving, excuse my French, but I will just use what Thomas Edison has used, like idiots, and expect the behavior to be excused. If you get what I mean. So nobody's an idiot, don't get me wrong. So yes, let's understand people better. Let's adapt our communication and let's extend grace to some people, so we shouldn't always assume. Again, there's a lot of when we have conversations, it could be in an office environment, even in church, everywhere, really, and in communicating with children, like we've said, so let's also remember that wisdom is knowing when you're dealing with someone who simply needs to take responsibility for their own actions. And if after efforts, they still behave interestingly, then we don't need not worry because we are not imagining things. We are seeing things. We are dealing with human beings here. So anyway, with these few points of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you and not confuse you that we are having a very good conversation this evening. Thank you. And this is my own 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tomi. And for those who refuse to repent, we continue to pray for them. I mean,
We'll
that's
pray
all we
for
can
them.
do. We just keep praying for them. I mean, that's all we
Yeah.
can do. Before I come back to Sister Abby, there's a question here. It says, how do we manage our traits with our cultural and societal
Sensitive
dynamics?
dynamics.
Our culture frowns on women who are red, causing them to repress who they truly are. So, Mr. Tolu, do you want to answer this? It says, how do we manage our traits with our cultural and societal dynamics? Our culture frowns on women who are red, causing them to repress who they truly are.
All right. Thank you for that question. Like we said, um, eh, our behavior is a combination of, our personality trait. Of course, that also relates to our temperament, our attitudes, then the environment and the culture also. Okay. So if you look at the book, I don't know which page it is, where we have that there's a diagram, attitude and approaches. It talks about the core values. So the core values will always, determine your attitude. Okay. Then from that combination of core values and attitude, you have your core behavior. Okay. Then when your culture, your environment, and your experiences mix with that, your core behavior, okay, you now have your moderated behavior. Okay. So expenses change behavior. Okay. It becomes moderated because, for example, okay, look at our culture here. And of course, in Nigeria and all that, we seldom, I mean, at times you don't obey rules and all that. But if you go to the Western countries and all that, you have to obey their rules. Okay. Look at the way we drive in Lagos, for example. Okay. People will just drive without minding, the traffic lights and all that. You cannot do that. That's a culture here, but you cannot do that in America, for example, or you go to
In the
UK,
UK.
of these countries and all that. So your behavior will be moderated really based on the culture. And that's what we are saying also. You have a core behavior, but because you are now adapting, to someone, who has a different personality from you and all that, okay, that your behavior will now become a moderated one. Okay, just to ensure that you can work along with each other, you can avoid conflicts, or you can communicate effectively and have a good relationship. So it is important that we keep moderating our behavior based on good culture, based on adapting to the people around us, to ensure that conflict is reduced and we work better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tolu. Okay, I think Sabi, you can ask your questions.
Yeah.
I'll just have comment here.
Okay. I was going to, there's a comment here, before I just ask my question. You said parents need to be read to bring out the best. Most will do nothing otherwise. Mr. Tolu,
So
it
can
says
can you repeat
parents,
that
there's a
again?
question here from the audience. It says parents need to be read to bring out the best. Most will do nothing otherwise. So what is your take on that?
Okay. So, if I understand what that question is saying, it's saying that for you to actually nurture a child, okay, because we have seen cases where parents pamper their children, and of course they become wayward, in life and all that. It's trying to say that parents have to adapt to a red personality type, so that they can effectively discipline, their children, and ensure that, they, because if you look at the characteristics of the red, is saying that, quick reaction, maximum effort to control. Okay, let me see. So a red, provides direction and quickly. Okay, so but it is not in all cases. Actually, it's not in all cases. There are times that you have to, adapt to the red. There are times that you have to adapt to the yellow and all that. Adapt to, okay, maybe the blue also, as a parent, just to guide, the children. But it might not actually be a red, dominating personality to be an effective parent. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
I'll have to interrupt at this point before we go ahead. And I'd like to please acknowledge our senior pastor, Pastor Itwa Olajide Igodalo. He has just noticed that he's joined, and I'm sure he would just like to say one or two words. Pastor Itwa, he needs no introduction. And is Pastor, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Show him the Mercedes. I can hear you.
Okay, sir. So,
Thank you so much.
welcome.
Yeah. Sorry, I joined a bit late. I was speaking somewhere. But
Okay.
we thank God. Sorry, that's my son shouting. He thinks he's Ronaldo.
He's an.
He's So I listened to the conversations, very robust, very interesting. I'm glad the way things are going and that we got our book club back. And I do pray and believe that we'll be able to do great things this year. I can see he told me that you have your own strong comments about the book and your research and things like that. That's the end I caught when I joined. So
All
I'm quite
right.
happy. And with our speaker also, who gave us that great presentation. I do hope that going forward we'll have various other conversations and we'll be able to read a lot of the books that we'll be speaking this year. Thank you all so much for being part of what God is doing. And thank you for keeping the book up going. I'm really, really grateful. God bless you all. Have a good evening.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor. Thank you. We appreciate you
Amen.
as always. Thank you.
Amen. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. Yes.
There's a comment here. It says that my husband is dominantly red, so enough red in the family to avoid conflicts and clash of personality. That's just a comment. And yesterday says a bit of every color does help with raising the children, and I completely agree with that. I think the author also mentioned, talked about you having a mix of all the colors. And I think really, I mean, for all the four colors, everyone has it. We just need to display it when and where, it's necessary for it to be done. in every relationship or communication that we have to engage in. So, Sister Abby, you have any questions?
Yes, I think, okay, my question is, I'm trying to be real here and hear from the audience as well. Okay, these, the four, the red, the yellow, the green, and
The
the
blue.
blue. Um, I'm a bit of everything, but I think I'm stronger in the red. But what happens, yeah, when this, I know you said to be adaptable and everything. Even this week alone, to be honest with you, I've had to block someone. Yeah. So, and I thought to myself, I said, maybe I should be been patient. I was trying to be patient and everything, but when do you draw the line? Where is the boundaries where you have to like see whether it's about your emotional well-being, because you talked about CEOs being red and then maybe somebody else is yellow. But if the CEO is continuing being aggressive, continue being negative, and yes, he's getting results done, he's getting things done, but at the expense of somebody's mental health being. So, I mean, where do you draw the lines where does this, I know you said to be adaptable, you need to understand different people's conflicts, yeah? These different people's attitude also, but at what point is it when it becomes toxic, where you have to you can't adapt?
Okay. Okay. So that's a very good question. So if you look at the title of this book, it's saying that the four types of human behavior and how to effectively communicate with each in business, and then now put in brackets in life. So he knows that communication is very key. Okay, is very key, and the whole idea is to maintain peace, avoid conflicts, and relate more effectively and all that. Okay, so of course we have our spaces. You have our spaces. The book also talked about where you have personal space, and each of these personality types have their spaces. Personal space for red, you know, um, might be very wide. Personal space for a yellow, might be short because I think maybe it's the blue that has the highest space, boundary. When I talk about space, we're talking about boundary here. So I think the point is, each of these personalities have their boundaries and all that, where you just give that limit to people before things happen and all that. So I think the answer to your question is actually to create that boundary. Okay, there is a boundary, that you have to set, which of course people will not have to encroach and all that, because many conflicts also, occur when people encroach into your space, and adapting becomes very, very difficult and all that. So setting boundaries, is part of what the author also recommend, because each of these personality type, set boundaries, and it's a way of also ensuring that you adapt. Because when you when you deal with, you are red and you want to deal with a yellow, for example, and all that, you are trying to adapt to that yellow, because you are somebody that normally don't, set some boundaries and all that. A yellow has a free space. Anybody comes into the space anytime and all that. You have to come out of your comfort zone to adapt to that, yellow personality type and all that. But when it comes to people that are becoming like stress agents, elements of stress to you and all that, I think that boundary will help. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Okay, so yes, it does. And I would just like to build on that. Okay, so you said that yes, to make peace and everything, but there are boundaries. So you know at what point to end that relationship because it's not going to help the project or whatever, even in the ministry, in the business, and even in the government. You know, if you have someone that is constantly not not getting constantly being how do I say? They have the red, yeah, they want things done, but they do it in a very aggressive way. Doesn't, yeah. So, do you then go to, okay, you try what I'm trying to say, okay, fine. There's a point where it becomes toxic, you end that relationship, but there's a point where maybe you can come to a midway to try and understand that person and maybe see if that person can, would you say training and development? How do you deal with manage such people apart? Okay, good communication, but there's some people, even when you communicate, they don't get it. Does it make sense? They're set in their ways.
Yeah.
They refuse to change. There's nothing.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. So yeah, so that those are the kind of people we are talking about. So you're actually getting practical with basically what the book is talking about. That I mean, to you, that person is an idiot because as much as you are doing something, you are communicating, you are passing messages. It's not just getting it, and you are not seeing the change.
mm,
Okay, you're not seeing the change. So it means that you have not gotten yet to that person's a level. You have not, I mean, according to the book, the adaptation is not effective yet because you are saying something and the person is not getting it. Okay. And if you remember what we said in, I think, the chapter 2 that talks about the communication happens on the listener's terms. So you think that you're saying A, but this person is getting B, you know, is receiving B and
mm,
his output is C or something. Now you're not getting what you want. So, like I said, adaptation takes a lot of skills. It takes a lot of effort. At times, you have to undergo some training to be able to adapt your own trait to the other person. Okay, I mean, let me give an example of a school system. I know it's not everybody that can teach maybe the nursery school class or the nursery school students. We have teachers; they are trained teachers, professional teachers, but they may not have the skill, to adapt themselves to that level of children, so that those children can, take the knowledge or whatever they are teaching. So you may just have to continue to try and also develop the skills to adapt to, because we are going to see more and more, relating to people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tolu. I think we will just take this one last question and then wrap up the session. Um, and I'll just take the two questions. I think I'm seeing two questions, but let's see how we can fit the two in, and then we can wrap up the session. This question says, when we are under pressure, do we become more aware of our weaknesses or do we become prisoners of them?
Okay. So that brings me to emotional intelligence. Okay. So what does emotional intelligence? Because I mean, this book also aligns with emotional intelligence. So what does emotional intelligence say is that your ability to identify, okay, your emotions and manage them effectively. And not just your emotions alone, the emotions of others. Okay, so the fact that you can identify that you are under pressure is an emotional intelligence in its way. So you are able to understand. So you are under pressure. How do you manage it so that it will not affect the other person? So emotional intelligence has four dimensions. Personal awareness, self-awareness. I mean, then you also have self-management. Okay, Then it goes to the third one, which is social awareness. That's what we call empathy. Okay, so you understand the emotions. Okay, somebody is behaving in a particular way, but you are not even looking at that behavior, but you are looking at the motivation. Why is it behaving in that way? Okay, so that because he slapped you, okay, I mean, your response, the reaction is okay, you slap him back. But we want to find out, okay, why is this person slapping me? Okay, so that's social awareness. You want to understand the why behind that action. Okay, and the third one is relationship management. Okay, how do you manage, when you have understood the why? Okay, so ability to understand your emotions, why you are behaving a particular way, and manage your behavior, then understanding the other people, other person's emotions, and using the overall knowledge to react, to that behavior is something that you have to do. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. I was just smiling when you talked about, somebody slap you and you slap the person back. But we read a lot that when they slap you in the left chin, you turn the right one so that they can slap you. How do we apply emotional intelligence to that? But just on a lighter note, it seemed like I'll just read this comment and then we would take our call on Minister Tommy for a closing remark or a wrap up session. A comment here says, weakness isn't a failure, but a level of strength that makes you ask for help. True. Mr. Ken says the book helped me realize that no color is superior. Yes, every personality contributes something valuable. Very true. Organizations become healthier when different personalities complement one another instead of competing. You're absolutely correct. I think that it's been an interesting and insightful session, dissecting the various personalities, the various colors, and the various angles to, the book surrounded by idiots. And I think reading the book, seeing the title at first, people would have been wondering that surrounded by idiots, how can I be surrounded by idiots? But I think it's a nice twist, to learning about personalities, how to communicate, building relationships, understanding human behavior and working better, within our society generally, because it cuts across the home, work, church. We've established ministries, relationship, even in the society in general. And so on that note, I'd like to say a very big thank you to Mr. Tolu for really dissecting this book so much for us. And I'll also encourage that people go back to read the book and, note some chapters to address some situations that, we might have found ourselves to be able to understand how to address it. But I must say that I've learned quite a lot from the book and I'm hoping to put it into practice. So when I talk to people or people talk to me, I'll be able to, pinpoint or check out the personality traits and then see how, to address those people.